Welcome to a football show, Thursday edition, post-Super Bowl edition, Titans offseason edition. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessee, and I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. If you are watching on YouTube, get into the comment section, please. Thumbs up, notifications turned on. Twitter, Facebook, share it if you can find it. Twitter's acting weird these days. If you can find it. And see, look, there's me talking to you.
It's hard to share. Yeah, it's really difficult. Introduce the show.
I don't know where the heck it's going on Twitter, but you can get to it there somehow, some way. So please check us out. Nick Suss, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I like your shirt. I don't know if I've seen you wear this shirt before.
Got to coach better, got to play better. that is the shirt that I have. So make sure you check that out on YouTube. You can only see that, of course, on YouTube. So, all right. Quickly here, we've got lots of stuff to get to today on the show. I'm thrown off by trying to get people to share product that's not showing up on social media, but that's neither here nor there. So we want to kind of treetop the offseason strategy for the Tennessee Titans, and that sort of starts with the big elements of an NFL offseason. We'll kind of do an introduction of what free agency could look like, an introduction of what contract negotiations and extensions could look like, a quick look at the priorities going into the draft, which obviously we've touched on and mentioned, over the course of the last few months. But let's kind of put it all into one sort of offseason strategy and approach for the Tennessee Titans. I also want to ask you, as we get in, I know you wrote a story about sort of the edge position, and in our conversation around draft priorities, we can have a discussion about what types of players fit into what this coaching staff wants to do, namely what type of edge player is Robert Saleh looking for if you've got Femi Oladejo and nothing else on the depth chart. Maybe Jalen Harrell, I guess, will count.
Jalen Harrell and Ali Gay are under contract, but we will get to this.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll do that. I want your reaction, of course. We'll dive into some of the names in free agency as well, and I want your reaction to what you saw at the Super Bowl. If you want to get into the show, you guys know how to do it. Mock off-season season.
Kind of. We're not going to be that specific, but kind of.
Yeah, we're not doing a 7-round mock today. That's not happening today.
I'm not going. If you wanted me to, I could have prepared exactly how much contract money I was giving to what players, but we are not going to be that detailed. We're not going to tell you why a $23 million contract for so-and-so is what's necessary. We're going to talk broadly here.
Yeah, there you go. There you have it. Okay. If Borgonzi trades back in the second round again this year, we can officially dub it a Borg. I don't know how we can workshop that one.
Is that I'm trying to remember. Is Borg a Star Trek thing? Does anybody know?
Cyborg. No, I don't think it is.
I know it's a Bjorn Borg. I know it's a tennis thing.
I am not a Star Trek. I like Star Wars. But the new Star Trek movie is very good.
Quick Google.
Retrodox, is this the off-season perfect mid-tier free agent class to fill in gaps? That's a very specific question. And next year, get the top tier. Is there any hope of getting an all-star this year? Look, there's George Pickens, Trey Hendrickson. There's a few. Tyler Linderbaum. Borg is Trek. There you go. That's right.
It's Trek. Yeah.
I thought that. Yeah, I guess that's right. All right, Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Support good local businesses is the message today on the show. We also have amazing local tap rooms. Yazoo up in Madison, right on the river. Beautiful. The weather's starting to, it's teasing us right now. But you can go sit on the river, overlook Cumberland, and have a great beer and a Grill Shack burger at Yazoo Brewing Company up in Madison. So go check them out. East Nashville Brew Works is in East Nashville, as is appropriately named. But also it's in Wilson County, where it has an enormous tap room with a dog park and a kids playground and a projection screen and an adults-only patio up top. So lots of good stuff at East Nashville Beer Works. And then the best food I've ever had at a brewery, Tennessee Brew Works, downtown. If you're downtown and you're looking to pregame for any of your events downtown, or just have a really sneaky good meal at a place where they put beer in all the food, Tennessee Brew Works as well, right there kind of right there next to Third Man Records. So make sure you check out all those great places: East Nashville Beer Works, Tennessee Brew Works, and Yazoo Brewing Company, all of which you can purchase at Sinkers Beverages in their award-winning craft beer retail fridge. So go check that out as well. Nick, did you have any major reactions? PK and I talked about this from a schematic standpoint and maybe a roster building standpoint in the Super Bowl. Did you have any did you learn anything about Seattle's domination of the Patriots? Was there anything in particular you think the Titans should take away?
I put this out after the game. I will continue to just think about it this way. If you look at the last 10 Super Bowl champions, in the Super Bowl game itself, they have had a median of 3.5 sacks and 11 quarterback hits per game. Each of the last 2 Super Bowl champions have finished the Super Bowl with 6 sacks and 11 quarterback hits. If you look at the other teams that have decisively won Super Bowls in recent years, whether it was Tampa Bay the time that they dominated Kansas City, whether it was the Rams the time that they won that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, if you look at some of our more decisive, some of our more interesting Super Bowl wins,
Would the Eagles with a backup quarterback beating the Patriots count? Because I think it's going to fall into the same category.
I think it did. Just out of reach is my sheet of paper that has all of this written down.
They won. Here's what I would say: the Eagles upset Tom Brady and the Patriots with a backup quarterback because their lines of scrimmage were significantly better.
And I think that if the takeaway here is that in the biggest moments, that defensive front, that pass rush is what can truly wreck a game. We are learning that having the ability to wreck a game plan is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than having the ability to exert your will with your game plan. And
isn't that one of the oldest lessons in football?
It is, but okay. let me extrapolate here. If you haven't seen what I put out, take a guess. How many first-round edge rushers have been drafted since the last time the Titans picked an edge rusher in the first round?
Which is who?
Derek Morgan was the last first-round edge rusher.
Georgia Tech, right?
It's been about 15 years.
15 years of first-round drafts, and how many edge rushers have gone in those 15 drafts?
Yeah.
45.
86.
Okay.
There have been 86 first-round edge rushers selected since the Titans last picked one, and 35 of those 86 have gone on to be Pro Bowlers. Wow. That is a pretty solid hit rate. The hit rate gets higher when you look at when you're picking in the top 5, and the worst of the worst end up being the Chase Youngs of the world. The best of the bests end up being Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year, Aiden Hutchinson, DPOY finalist, Will Anderson, DPOY finalist.
And you're not talking tackles, right? You're not talking Aaron Donald, Ed Oliver. You're just talking
edge. I am purely talking guys coming off the edge. The calculus changes a little bit if you count defensive tackles. Obviously, a lot of them have been picked. But defensive end, outside linebacker, pass rush, edge rush, whatever you want to call this friggin' position. If you look at the top 10 guys in the league consistently year over year, it is one of the few positions where a majority of your best guys were picked in the first half of the first round. It's quarterback, obviously, because such a high plurality of those players are picked early in the draft. And after that, like the list of truly great edge rushers from the last 10 years or so who were not picked in the top half of the first round. You're going to get TJ Watt, who was a late first round pick. You're going to get Max Crosby, who I believe was a 4th round pick. And I think Nick Bonito was the last pick of the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Other than that, almost everybody who you're going to talk about as a superstar was picked in those top 12 to 15 picks. Yeah. That is not a new lesson. And that is not necessarily what the Seahawks did. So I don't want to sit here and say,
they traded for Leonard Williams and drafted Byron Murphy and have dominated up the middle.
Yeah. And so I'm not necessarily saying, look at what the Seahawks did with Aiden Hutchinson, because clearly he's not on the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But the lesson seems to be that to win these big games, you need to be able to wreck somebody's game plan. And the NFL's lesson seems to be the quickest way to finding somebody who can wreck a game is use a top 10 pick on that guy.
Yeah.
Which sets up an offseason where we thought the Titans were going to do that anyway.
Yeah, it does. Ed Henry says, if you had one choice and could be dominant on one side of the ball, would it be offense or defense? Here we go. Ed Henry says, so you basically, would you rather be the Texans or the Bengals? I'll go Bengals. You're probably not going to win either way, but Bengals are more fun. Ed comes back with, I think it's defense. So The ROM is turning the worm.
For what it's worth, I would pick offense because I think it is easier to get to the postseason with an offense than it is with a defense. Once you get to the postseason, it's probably defense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You do have to get to the postseason, and there are a lot of really great defensive teams that just can't score their way into the postseason.
Well, and it's not necessarily that a defense can wreck a game plan more so than an offense can, attack an elite defense. It's that you kind of have to have both to win the Super Bowl.
Sure.
You kind of have to have both. But I do agree it's easier to go from 4 wins to 9 wins with a franchise quarterback, a good scheme, and a couple of good supporting pieces. And even then, you don't necessarily, as the Bengals example has shown, you don't even need an offensive line to be very good. Now, it's not sustainable without the offensive line. And eventually you need the defense to catch up. And you can do it the other way. I mean, the Titans tried to do it the other way, right? Like they built the defense and the running game and then tried to find the quarterback. And, they got close with Tannehill, but he was never necessarily good enough. So Greenhouse says, based on Suss's information, looks like David Bailey is a Tennessee Titan.
We'll talk about edge rushers a lot today. Don't worry. Also worth noting, when people want to build around the running game, I've talked about this before. In the last 25 years, only 2 Super Bowl winning teams have featured a running back who finished top 5 in the NFL in rushing yards that year. The 2003 New England Patriots with Corey Dillon and the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Other than that, no other teams with a top 5 running back. Build around a running back at your peril. That has not been a great track record for winning the Super Bowl.
Jeremiah Love, come on down. Richard says, get socially lubed at a local tap room, of course. Down-regulate that PFC and spend all that cap money. That's correct. There you go. All right, so I do think the thing that I said on Monday, for those that missed the show, is that, and I think Kyle Shanahan said this, that like the system that Seattle runs, which Robert Saleh has some similarities to, is that too high safety look, and they're going to drop into coverage. They're going to make you go the length of the field, but they have to, as Kyle Shanahan said on the pregame, you have to run the football, and if you cannot run the football against that defense, they're just going to sit back and pick you apart, and that's what kind of happened. And I do think that Saleh has some of that in his own defense and scheme and strategy and philosophy. And he's got 2 really important pieces, maybe 3, that will work very well, which is Cedric Gray, Jeffrey Simmons, and possibly Tavondre Sweat in the middle of the front 7 to stop the run. A lot of other needs on the defense, and we'll get to that. We'll get to the priorities in the draft. We'll get to the free agency strategy, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages, and make sure you support good local journalism. Nick Suss, Tennessean.com. Go pay for good journalism. It's not very much money. It's a couple bucks a month, so go support those guys, men and women over there at the Tennessean, who bring you really good sports content and sports coverage. Okay. You wrote this about the free agency plan. We'll start to actually let's back up.
Let's do it.
I want you to treetop the overarching strategy. How many buckets would you create that you need to figure out? Like if you're talking free agency, I would say re-signing of contracts on your own roster, NFL draft, development, franchise tag. Like what are the buckets in your opinion if you had to organize them and say these are the 3 big or 5 big? Like what are they for you?
Off the dome, the buckets for me would be the contract extension market, which is essentially one person. We can talk about that right now. It's Peter Skoronski. The re-signing your players bucket, which is going to be a lot more players that we have to talk about.
And step 1 of your free agency strategy.
The big investment contract bucket, which is who are the 1 to 3 players who you are going to give starter money, top-end starter money. 4th, I would say you're filling out the roster, in free agency bucket, which are steps 3 and 4 in that article you're referring to. The guys who are going to be role players and the guys who are going to be depth. I would say 5th is the first 50 picks of the draft scouting. Then is the rest of the draft scouting. And then the last thing, developing your own roster. Like actually improving the guys who you have club control on. So I think that was 7 steps, but those are the buckets I would kind of look at.
I would combine probably, if to make it maybe more palatable, I think I would combine big investment and small investment in free agency into investment in free agent dollars. I think I'd combine early draft and late draft into draft, and I think I would add trades as a bucket. I think there's a trade possibility.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Mostly for Calvin Ridley, but they went and got L'Jarius Sneed. It was the incorrect move. It was a terrible decision, but there are opportunities to go make other roster moves in terms of acquiring pieces, whether it's via trade or otherwise. Max Crosby, notably a name that people are going to be talking about a lot this offseason. So I would go like current players, whether that's extensions or re-signings. I would go trades. I would go free agency. I would go draft, and I would go development. That's probably how I would break it down.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Do you have? I mean, they're all critically important to this team. It sounds like the extension slash re-signing part of this strategy is a fairly straightforward conversation. Let's go through Peter. Let's get that part out of the way, because I think the re-signings is interesting. I think there's some tricky decisions in there, but it sounds like Skoronski's the only one that you would even consider just saying, hey, we got to give this guy some big money, get him locked up, and make him happy.
Yeah, I think that the deadline, I'm trying to remember if you guys in the comments know specifically. I'm pretty sure the deadline to pick up the 5th-year option is March. We will see. It might be April. We'll see if this is a 5th-year option pickup situation or if this is a straightforward extension situation.
Looks like May 1st, actually.
Is it late? Is it post-draft? I thought it was pre-draft. Whatever it ends up being, we will, based on this franchise's love of the draft, develop, retain moniker, Skoronski's kind of the first opportunity for them to put their money where their mouth is. And so I would say that seems fairly straightforward of a decision for them to make. After that, not really a true extension candidate on this team unless they are looking to re-up Jeff's contract, which I don't believe they need to. He's through 28, I think, is his contract right now. Maybe through 27, but if they would like to, he's worth it. He's a really good player.
So let's stick with Skoronski real fast. Tyler Smith is 4-year, $96 million, $24 million average salary. That's the highest in the NFL. Trey Smith for Kansas City, 4-year, $94 million, $23.5 million. Landon Dickerson, $21 million per year. Chris Lindstrom for Atlanta, 26 years old, 5-year, $102 million extension, $20 million. Is Peter Skoronski a $20 million player? If you are at $20 million per year average salary, that puts you in the top 6. Makes him, top 6 or 7 of highest paid guards in the NFL. Is that where he belongs, in your opinion? Or is he more in the 16 to 17 to $18 million range, which is about kind of top 12-ish?
I would think market value, if you're looking to extend him at this point in his career, you kind of have to be in the 18 to 20 range. This is not me sitting here saying I think Peter Skoronski is a top 5 guard in the NFL, in the same way that when the Titans gave Taylor Lewan the biggest contract for an offensive lineman ever, I didn't think he was the best offensive lineman in the league. It's just market value of when you're hitting free agency. And if you're projecting Skoronski based off of, we are trying to retain you at the hometown discount to prevent you from ever hitting the open market.
Yeah.
I think that Chris Lindstrom deal is probably where you kind of have to look. And it's not like they'll be hurting for money. So
yeah, there are 14 guards in the NFL making at least $17 million per year. That's average salary. Obviously, the contracts are more complicated than that. But as if you're going to do 4-year $75 million, right? That's about $18.5 million. So you could do a 4-year $75 million deal, and I think he would be in the ballpark for that. I feel like, and I think that would be a smart contract to give out.
Yeah. So he's the extension. Yeah. And again, we can talk Jeff, but I think we all understand if he wants a bigger contract, he's going to get the biggest deal for a defensive tackle in the NFL. So,
well, let me check his deal, because there is an out in his deal right now. It is right now to get out of the deal. His next 2 years, $25.6 million cap hit and a $28.5 million cap hit the next 2 seasons at age 29 and 30. The dead cap money, $10 million this year and only $5 million the year after that. So does that scream extension right now? Does that scream ride it out and see what you can get out of him for 2 more years? at a relatively affordable rate. And if you need to, obviously, if there's a cut coming, it's only a $5 million dead cap hit. I assume he would want to upgrade that significantly. But a four-year, $94 million contract halfway through, there is an out right now.
And it's a steal of a contract based off of what contracts went to other defensive tackles after Jeff signed that one. This is not me reporting. This is just me talking logically. If there are conversations about Jeff's contract, I would be surprised if it's generated by the Titans. It's just a guy who's coming off of a career year, coming off of an all-pro year, coming off of a year where he was unquestionably the best at his position in the world. That's the time when the leverage is high and you go in and say, can we get more? So if his camp is interested in going in and getting more, this would be the time to do it when the Titans have $100 million to spend and have the ability to put more on his plate. But that I just brought that up as a secondary option while we're talking about extensions and roster retention.
At 23.5 average salary, that makes him the 7th on average highest paid defensive lineman. Chris Jones, Milton Williams, Zach Allen, Matabuke, Ali McNeil, Derek Brown. They have Rashawn Gary listed here. He is not an interior defensive lineman. Quinnen Williams basically has a similar contract, almost identical contract, same year, same age, etc. So the two of them probably do similar deals. Okay, let's get into the re-signings here.
Yeah.
And here's my question first. Is there I have two names. I have them broken down into categories, right? There are absolutely re-sign, probably should re-sign, unsure about re-signing, and then probably walk. And how many names would you list as must re-sign? Absolutely, you should go do it. How many do you have?
Must, probably one.
Okay, which is?
Jihad Ward.
Okay, I've got him as one of my two. He made $1.4 million last year, so pretty good deal.
I think that he was the right player at the right time for the team, and I think you reward that by saying, if somebody comes here and plays well, we will stand by them. I think that's a good message to send to the league and to agents and to free agents. I could hear an argument for Sebastian Joseph Day. He has done a really good job for the last 2 years. If he wants to be back, he's a guy that I think really benefits this locker room. Could hear that argument for him. I'm trying to think of who else might be on your must list.
I have Sebastian Joseph Day and Jihad Ward as the two re-signings. Yeah. I think Chig is as close as it gets. And it depends on what he wants. It depends on what he's looking to do. If he is trying to become a number one, top end tight end, and he wants, $8, $9, $10 million a year to be a number one tight end, I don't think he has done anything to prove that, but I understand him wanting to go prove that. I think he has tremendous value in the locker room as a part of the culture and the new standard. If you could get him on a 3-year, $12 million deal, $4 million a year, which would be a 400% raise for him, I feel like that's a fair deal. Or maybe he wants a short deal to go prove it, a 1-year, $6 million contract, something like that to go prove it.
Yeah.
But I think Chig, I just don't think you're in the position. You're going to, and this gets to our larger strategy conversation. There are two, you don't have a number one receiver. You don't have a number two. If you trade Ridley or you cut him, you don't have either one of those. Gunnar Helm is a solid piece right now, but you don't necessarily know who your sort of designated blocking tight end is going to be, or your number one or number two tight end. You're unsure about the running back room. There's too much stuff here. I just think you got a guy that is good after the catch, can be a complementary piece. He is not the solution at tight end, but very few teams have a superstar tight end. I just think keeping the guy you have and not having to fill that need through the draft or free agency is probably smart. But if he's asking for $10 million a year, I don't want it.
Can you throw up Ed's question right there about fit? Ed asks,
I was going to say, isn't the fit the deciding factor in re-signing these guys? Not sure how past performance would indicate future success in new systems.
That's a good point, Ed. When I'm talking about re-signings and when I'm going to be talking about free agent signings, a lot of what I'm talking about is more surprise with me and Braden, the psychology here front office wise than it is the fit roster wise. I think that when you are discussing what the Titans are doing in this offseason, you're right. It's really tough to say, does Chig fit a Brian Daboll offense? Because we don't know what Daboll's plan is. It's really tough to say, does Jihad Ward or Joseph Day fit Saleh and Bradley's defense? because, as we'll talk about in a little bit when we start talking about these first run to edges, there is no true definition of what these guys actually prefer. So when I'm talking about re-signing players, and to a later extent when we're talking about signing new players, it's going to be a conversation about what sets up this team to look the way that it wants to look for the players it's bringing in, and to stand by the people who are in the locker room who they are trying to prove something to. I'm not saying that the locker room needs to be sold on Borgonzi. I think that for the most part, people I've talked to within the locker room really have bought into what Borgonzi's doing.
Yep.
But if you sign somebody like Jihad Ward last year and he performs like one of your best players at a position of need, and you choose to not engage with him, that doesn't look well for the people who are coming back. Chig, on the other hand, if you have somebody who is out here pursuing a starting role and you try to bring him back as a reserve or as a rotational player, that does not necessarily look like solidarity. Like, did you read, I think it was The Ringer. Did you read The Ringer's oral history of Mike Vrabel last week?
I did not.
There was an interesting point where they were talking to, I think it was Pioli. Was Scott Pioli the GM in Kansas City?
Yep, and New England.
But so they were talking about Pioli in the Kansas City years. And Vrabel was about to hit free agency ahead of his last couple of seasons. And before he could hit free agency, Pioli traded for Vrabel because they're good buds and they knew each other for all those years in New England. And Pioli calls Vrabel to say, we're making this trade. Straight to voicemail, no response. And Pioli calls Vrabel's agent and he's like, what's going on? Is Vrabel like on vacation or something? And the agent's just like, you're going to have to fix some stuff. Like, this is a problem. You're going to have to fix some stuff. And so Pioli sets up a meeting a couple of weeks later and they're signing the contract. And it's like, Vrabes, buddy, what the hell? What's going on? And apparently, as Pioli tells the story, Vrabel comes in and says, I'll get over this. Give me time, I'll get over this. But I feel like I've earned the right to play where I want. I played as hard as I did for all these years, so at the end of my career, I could make some decisions about myself. And you took that decision away from me because you selfishly wanted me around. And that's not cool, man. I wanted to go do what I wanted to go do.
That's such peak Vrabel.
And like, I'm not saying that everybody is going to behave that way, but when you look at free agency, if you keep somebody and they don't want to be here, or if you keep somebody and you don't give them what they're looking for, you're going to end up alienating the people in the room who have to play for you.
I mean, yes. And while I am obsessed with psychology as much as you are and the interpersonal dynamics of leadership and culture and standards in locker rooms, a lot of this is like, look, I think they should re-sign Ward, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Chig. But if one of them doesn't want to be here, then like that's fine. Get out of here. Like it's fine. Like get out of here. Like I want people that want to be here, and I think that goes without saying. That is the most Vrabel thing I've ever.
It's a good
heard.
story. Go read it. I think it was Alan Siegel at the Ringer. It's a good
story. I think to your point about Ward busting your ass and earning a spot, outperforming your contract and earning a second shot. I think James Lynch is in that category.
Sure.
To some degree. I think Corey Levin is in that category to some degree as well. These are good depth pieces.
Oli Udo.
Udo is on my list as well. I thought Lynch was very, very solid. I don't know what to make of Bryce Oliver and James Prochet. I think they were, Oliver's just didn't get to see anything from him. Prochet I thought was solid again, considering his slot on the roster and where he started in training camp. I think those two guys could come back as depth pieces on the practice squad.
Probably the point that we need to mention that Bryce Oliver is an exclusive rights free agent, so if the Titans offer him a one-year deal, he will be back on the roster. Yeah. Daryl Baker is a restricted free agent, so the Titans will have the ability to match contracts there. Those are two extenuating different circumstances.
I don't. What do you make about what corners do you want? I mean, Jalen Armour-Davis, Daryl Baker. That's not super inspiring.
I would have no problem with bringing Baker back so long as you don't expect him to be number one or number two. I think he's a good depth piece. I think he's a solid cornerback. It's just you need actual starters.
CB5. The guys I let walk here, I think it's clearly Arden Key. Made $7 million last year. I think he's clearly that's his time is over. Van Jefferson was only $1.7 million guy, but I think he's probably not coming back to the team as well. I think the major one that is debatable here is Kevin Zeitler, who for the first half of the season, everyone was like, well, you're going to have to find a replacement for him. And in the second half of the season, he was better. He's a very, very, very old player with tons of experience, and I think is a really great stabilizing force on the offensive line. $9 million a year for him is steep.
Yeah. If we are assuming that the Titans are going to totally reconfigure the receiving core, I would personally preach the virtues of continuity up front. And so for me, Zeitler coming back would be good for Cam in the same way that we'll see what they do with Lloyd Cushenberry as a cut candidate. But I do think that continuity would be good for Cam. If you are coming into year 2, giving him a new center, a new right guard, 2 new starting receivers, a new starting tight end, and maybe none of this is talking about running back. Yeah. That's a lot to handle when he's also got a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach. Continuity up front can help. That's not to say that you need Zeitler, but I do think Zeitler
is he cheaper?
would be, I think he's probably a little cheaper, and I think
like
that and I think he's also super willing to come back. I think he liked his time in Tennessee.
Yeah. No, I think he likes Nashville a lot. He and I are both from the same place, and so we chatted about that, and he really enjoys all of his kids being here in Nashville. All right, so the last one here is kind of special teams, which is Sly, Hecker, and Cox are all free agents. Any thoughts on the third unit?
If you want him back, get him. Like,
okay.
The one other thing that could throw an absolute wrench into this is I believe Brandon Aubrey is a restricted free agent in Dallas. And if Bones has some magic to pull and wants to go get his old guy, restricted, the Cowboys can obviously do something about it. But that would be a pretty sizable gamble if the Titans wanted to go after the guy that Bones helped kind of lead to being one of the best kickers in the NFL. Other than that, if you want to bring the guys back, I don't think that is a problem area.
So before we get into the actual free agent dollars, 99 million of it reportedly, and big investment on big ticket items and filling out the roster on smaller items, I do think this is the right question from RetroDax, which is regardless of players available, what is your tier list of most important positions? He mentions edge, receiver, and corner. We can also add other pieces to that because this is not about the draft and about the first, second, third round. This is about the offseason strategy. I think if you are talking strategy, the most pressing need is cornerback. I do not think you necessarily have a starting outside corner at either position or at nickel. I think you can keep Ridley. You can have DK and Io Manor, and I'm not as terrified about that. If you bring back Ward and Sebastian Joseph Day with Simmons and Sweat and, knowing, again, you can go get somebody in free agency as well. I think Femi Oladejo developing. I think there's at least bodies there at receiver and at edge. I think I would go corner because they don't even have bodies that are legitimate starting corners right now on the roster.
My first recommendation would be go to Tennessean.com, where today I had an article go up asking the question, what's the Titans' biggest need, edge, wide receiver, or cornerback? So good timing on that question, RetroDocs.
I can't believe that's how that worked.
Good timing on that question, RetroDocs. It's almost as if I planted the question. I have no idea who you are, but some nice little telepathy there. This is kind of the conclusion I came to at the bottom of the article. Cornerback is your biggest need if your goal is improving your floor, raising the floor of what the team can be. Wide receiver is your biggest need if your goal is raising the ceiling, how good you can be. Edge is your biggest need if you are trying to straddle the two conversations. So if your goal is to get to 7-8 wins this year, show proof of concept, show growth, you have to prioritize cornerback. The only cornerback under contract is Marcus Harris and L'Jarius Sneed, who we can all say what we want to say about that.
Honestly, Cuts could be another one of these buckets that we didn't really include. Yeah. But
I think you really need to look at the difficulty of building a secondary in the NFL, the difficulty of consistency in the secondary, and I would advocate for signing 2 starters and using a top 50 pick on a starter. Like,
Agree.
totally build your new secondary. The receiver thing, this is a ceiling proposition. We can all talk about all of the stuff we want to, about edge rushers, about cornerbacks, about coaching, about ownership, all of this stuff. One of my closest friends last week, proposed a really simple question to me. He said, if you could only have one of these 4 things in the NFL, would you love to have a great quarterback, a great head coach, a great general manager, or a great owner? You could only have one. And there were really only 2 answers that I even remotely considered, those being quarterback and owner.
Really? Owner?
I did not have coach or GM in the same caliber.
I think it's weird to go. I would go quarterback 1, GM 2, because the GM will get you the good coach.
As long as we can all say coach is 4, I'm fine.
I think owner is 4, but
I think that having
bad owners win all the time.
I don't know if they do. I think that we can point to the 10 franchises in the NFL that never win and kind of find some consistent threads there. But all of that's to say, my answer was quarterback. I want the quarterback. And when we're talking about building the receiving core, all of that is in service of, you got to make sure Cam Ward is the guy you think he is. I'm not necessarily sold yet that he's the guy that they want him to be. And I'm pretty sure the league consensus is, yeah, we'll see. He's got a lot of talent. We got to see it. And so if you're calling receiver the biggest need, you're calling receiver the biggest need in service of that. This franchise truly is only going to hit its apex if the quarterback is as good as people think the quarterback can be. So you call receiver the biggest need simply in service of that. And then edge rusher, it's what we talked about at the top of the show.
Well, they also just have the most roster talent at the receiver position. You right? Calvin Ridley's on the team, guys.
Yes.
Like Calvin Ridley, Io Manor, DK, those 3 are better than any 3 that they have at any of the other positions. Sure. It's not even close. Yes. So to me, if you are keeping Ridley, you're better off at wide receiver. If you trade Ridley, you are adding value and assets to things. I would assume, to the receiver position. Also, I think receiver is the easiest to supplement through free agency. If we're talking about strategy here, I think receiver, whether it's Juwan Jennings or Alex Pierce or Romeo Dobbs or Wan'Dale Robinson, I think you can get a plus WAR, a plus replacement, above replacement player at a relatively affordable price, and they will be productive enough to keep the team where they are. I don't think there's any. I think edge is the most difficult to find in all of this, as you just alluded to. 35 out of the 86 edge draft players in the first round have been Pro Bowlers, and the vast majority of Pro Bowlers are taken in the first round at the position. I think the easiest one to fix, though, is corner, because you can throw a lot of stuff at it that isn't high-level resources. I think you could sign a number 2 and a number 3, and then you could use 2 draft picks, and then you put in Marcus Harris, and I think you could revamp your room in one offseason. It may not be great, but I think it would be better than what they had after trading, Roger McCreary, Jarvis Brownlee, and L'Jarius Sneed got hurt. Like, I just think it would be significantly improved. So I think it's the easiest position to fix in all of this, and it's the biggest need.
Yeah, I think back to last year at the Combine when I was talking to Chad Brinker, and he talked at length about the Washington Commanders rebuild. The idea of that 2024 Commanders team using $100 million in salary cap to sign 30 guys instead of sign 10 starters. I think corner is a position where you can kind of cast that Commanders net and go get 4 or 5 guys with starting experience and throw a bunch at the wall and see what sticks. Yep. I think that is a plausible strategy at that position, even though if you're looking at like consensus mock draft boards and stuff like that, there's going to be a lot of corners available to you at 35. Like, that is going to be a really good position to lean corner.
Tons. I think 35 is a better spot for receiver personally, but I agree with your point. And here's what Eddie says here, and I agree with this. I don't see the need to use a first or second round pick on corner and maybe a third or a fourth instead of using healthy premium capital on corner. Here's the thing. You could end up with You have 66 and 101 in the draft. You could easily end up with Igbenogson and Keontae Scott and have an outside corner and a slot corner, and then go get another free agent or two for $8 to $12 million per player, and you've got 4 new corners just like that. And so
Sure.
I think you don't have to spend elite $35 million resources or first round draft pick on that position.
My toxic trait, for what it's worth, though, is I think cornerback is the clear answer for what is the hardest position to play in the NFL. And if you are sold on a guy who you think can do that well, you take him when you take him.
Yeah, I just don't think Jermod McCoy is the 4th overall pick type of good.
No, if you trade back to 12 and Mansour Delane or Jermod McCoy is there, that's a totally different conversation.
Avion Terrell out of Clemson as well. Get back in on the zeitgeist, everybody, says Team Ramrod. Ed Henry says, is there a world where we could see Hooker released and we pick Downs and pair him with Winston? Here's what I would say. If that was a Rand Carthon Chad Brinker contract extension 2 years ago, he was 2 years into his contract extension, I could see that being a possibility. Did not have a great year. I think he will benefit significantly from Robert Saleh being the head football coach along with Gus Bradley. And I think because it was done by Borgonzi, I think he is here at least for the foreseeable future. I also don't think Caleb Downs is a noticeable improvement, because what Caleb Downs does well, at least on tape, and what Kevin Winston does well are the same thing. They both play very well down around the line of scrimmage in the box. Caleb Downs, incredible IQ guy, special teamer, etc. Some of the things he does, I love the player. I want him as a Packer. I don't think he fits what the Titans need. You need a rangy, high point safety that can cover all of the territory right now. Ideally, Winston grows into that piece, but we shall see.
May I also add, the most forgotten Titan, Xavier Woods, is still under contract as well.
There we go.
He's still here.
They have safeties.
They have safeties.
I think they're going to get a safety, but I think it's later in the draft, and I think it's a cover safety. We can have the best O-line in the league, but this is from Retrodax, but if no one has separation or the ability to get open, you are screwed. Team Ramrod says Brinker and Borgonzi have specifically said, quote, premium picks on premium positions, which frankly is corner, receiver, and edge. Since they got put in charge, picking a safety or running back would be going against that. Agree. Richard says 1/3 of the league has shit owners. That is true. Have we re-signed Snead yet? Says Jabari Martin. Hilarious. Let's see. Rapid Reaction says, any idea when we'll hear from Dayball and the other coordinators? Nick?
I'm trying. We'll see. We'll see. I have not heard anything specific, but it's possible at the combine, and it's possible heading into free agency.
Retrodax says, if Ward doesn't have Cam Ward doesn't have a wide receiver 1 going into year 3 and looks the same, are you extending him?
Going into year 3?
That's a lot of
but
that's a lot of ifs in that sentence. Like, oh, you haven't provided him with supporting cast and he hasn't shown improvement. Would you then extend it? No, you're not extending at that point anyway. So
if Cam plays mediocre for 2 years, there's a
5th year extension maybe, but that's about it. You take the 5th year option, but that's maybe about it.
But even then, you'd have another year to decide on that.
So let me ask you this then. It sounds like we are in agreement that corner is A, the biggest need, and B, maybe the easiest position to sort of overhaul in the offseason, and that you don't need to use big ticket items in free agency or a first round pick in the draft to do so. So if that's the case, then let's talk about the premium resources and the other 2 positions at wide receiver and edge. Make sure you swing by Sinkers Beverages. Support good local tap rooms. Support good local journalism, etc., etc., etc. Sinkers Beverages has won the award for the best liquor store in the city 5 years in a row. So is the premium assets, how are you divvying these up? You've got Trey Hendrickson. I think that feels like chasing. That feels like a John Robinson circa 2021 move. Hey, we're really good. Let's go get Jadeveon Clowney or Vic Beasley or Bud Dupree.
Right.
George Pickens, I think, is far better than Julio Jones at 32 years old, but there's some of that feels like that too. Also, total head case in the locker room. Doesn't feel like he's going to fit the quote-unquote new Titans standard that Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi are trying to establish.
Go Dogs.
Romeo Dobbs is a really good player. Really, really great hands. I think he would be an asset in traffic for Cam Ward. Also got into some disciplinary stuff with the Packers, a little bit of a head case there. I think Juwan Jennings would be an absolute dog for this team. I know that's a Tennessee player, but he's probably not super expensive. What do you make of the high-end dollars and high-end capital and how you parse out edge and receiver?
It's hard to differentiate who's going to be high end dollar and who's going to be like
Mid-tier.
80th, like mid tier, that bridge between mid tier and high tier. Like a guy who I have circled, who if he hits the open market, I think would be an absolute steal for the Titans, is John Franklin Myers.
Okay.
He played 3 years with Saleh in New York, was the Jets' most productive pass rusher for 2 of those 3 years, has since gone to this absolute behemoth of a machine in Denver and been a like really, really serviceable piece there who paired well with Benito and Allen and these star power there kind of guys. If he is somebody who is this good historically as a number 2 edge rusher or as a number 2 defensive end, whatever you want to call him at this position these days, that's somebody who I would be willing to overpay a little bit on as your replicate the Danico Autry deal from 5 years ago situation. I like that as a money item. Wan'Dale Robinson, I've talked about before, is a guy who I like the fit with the familiarity with Dayball. I think that helps the transition in a way that's probably a little bit more.
I don't love the player. I don't love the player.
I understand not loving the player. I will compare it to like what if the Titans signed Tyler Boyd when he was 26 instead of 30, like that sort of transitional piece that's going to help make the offensive transition easier. There are a couple other guys that I don't.
To me, that's Romeo Doubs, though. That's the guy if you're talking about a guy who still has like 3 really good productive years and can make plays and fills out a spot on the roster. Like he is, if you have Calvin Ridley and Romeo Doubs with the 2 rookies from last year, like that's a good receiving core. Like I know that sounds crazy, but that's a good receiving core.
Yeah, and like somebody like Gabe Davis, who is a free agent who has familiarity with Dayball, could fill that role just as well as. If we're just saying like you need a veteran who's been in the offense before, obviously these guys have far-reaching experience in the league. I like Wan'Dale. I think he was a good receiver on a bad team last year. I don't know if he's worth wide receiver 1 money, but if you're giving him wide receiver 2 money, I would rather have him over. I don't know if I'd rather him and Dobbs are probably roughly equal.
I'd rather have Dobbs.
I just don't necessarily know if Dobbs fits the personality profile that the Titans are.
I don't.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No. It's actually really tricky because he's kind of considered both for the Packers fans. Like he is considered sort of the leader of the receiver group. He is the most sort of like productive and the most dependable. But there's been like a couple of very small random incidents. So nothing major. It's all very small stuff. He's got a market valuation of about $12 million a year. If you look at his 4-year averages. He's a 58 reception, 700 yards, 6 touchdown player. That's outside of Ridley's seasons, like that's as good as you're going to get for a number 2 for the Tennessee Titans, like ever. He was over 720 yards receiving last year, over 13 yards a catch and 6 touchdowns. Cam Ward could desperately use a player like that.
Sure, if you want to look at the stats on these other guys, Jawan Jennings' best season is better than that. Wan'Dale Robinson's best season is better than that. I agree that Dobbs.
Wan'Dale Robinson's hurt all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Jennings is about the same. His 17-game average is 48 catches, 585 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's about the same.
Yeah, I think Dobbs is probably he is almost certainly the better option. I am just a little more concerned about fit than I am about talent.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. My Robinson season last year was excellent with 90 receptions and over 1,000 yards, but he's also I guess he has played. I thought he was hurt more often. He played 15 games 3 years ago, 17 last year, and then 16 this past season. So maybe you're right. Maybe he's been more dependable than I thought.
He's little, but he's
9. Is there ever been a receiver with 93 receptions and less than 700 yards? That's hard to do.
He's small and he is your underneath target, but I do like the option in a way that like we talked a lot about Olamide Zaccheaus last offseason, and I believe he's a free agent again this year, but like that kind of player who can help your offense horizontally as you try and get better vertically. Chris Brazel comments in the comments. If Brazel's your guy who's stretching the field, somebody who's extending the field horizontally does give your offense some space and shape issues.
I don't think that's as stinky as you think. Jabari says, will Chris Brazel shake the hypo stink off Vols wide receivers, not NFL contributors from his system? I think Cedric Tillman, by the way, was on pace to have a pretty good year before he got hurt last year. Juwan Jennings is not technically a Josh Heupel receiver. Give me Jennings and Pitts, Retrodoc says. In that case, you'd probably be letting Chigakonkwo walk. There's no question there. Brad Johnson says, if you get pressure, your corners will be better. There's no question about that. Wait. Did Braden just say he didn't love Wan'Dale Robinson? I don't know what his number is going to be. I think he's going to be an expensive player because he's coming off a 1,000-yard season and 90 catches. So, Richard says, I don't understand wanting to get rid of Ridley with $10 million in dead money this year. That's a solid starter somewhere else. Plus he saves $22 million in 2 years with $5 million. I agree. I think I am more likely to bring Ridley back than I expected. I think Snead is done. I think Ridley is back.
Yeah, we'll see. We will
or he's traded and the contract is moved, which could be of value.
Yeah, I think there's value in shopping, but we'll see how
I agree
much league interest is. Question about Draymond Jones. He's another one. Draymond Jones, Danico Autry are both free agents if you want to try and relive the glory days with a bigger edge. I think we alluded to this. It's probably worth talking about this whole what shape of edge rusher does Robert Saleh like thing.
We talked about receivers. I don't look, Alex Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs, Juwan Jennings. I don't think they need to go big game hunting in free agency. I think if you told me you drafted a receiver at 35 and you signed Romeo Doubs, kept Calvin Ridley, and then developed Ayo Manor and DK, I think you've got a really good receiving room for Cam Ward, significantly better than the one last year. I do think, look, Ward and Ridley have a connection. So then let's go to the edge here. And the edge is, again, you've got Khalil Mack, Kwity Paye, I think is an interesting option there. You've got Owe, you've got David Edwards, you've got Trey Hendrickson is the big ticket item. That does feel a little bit like chasing. So let's talk through what's
a couple of guys.
Yeah. Let's talk through what Saleh wants, the style of player he wants, and then you can include Sebastian Joseph Day and Jihad Ward in this conversation too, right? Because there's Femi Oladejo who does something different. If they're drafting David Bailey, that's something even more different. If they're drafting Keldrick Falk, that's the big burly defensive end. You don't probably need Sebastian Joseph Day. So talk through what he wants.
Yeah, I think there's this interesting perception and maybe misconception that developed in the days after Saleh being hired of, it's a 4-3. He wants a big 4-3 defensive end. Were that backed up by the history of what Robert Saleh does, I would jump on that bandwagon. But since Saleh has taken over as a defensive coordinator in 2017, he has been on teams that drafted 5 edge rushers in the first round. Those 5 edge rushers are Solomon Thomas, essentially a defensive tackle, Nick Bosa, a classic 4-3 defensive end type, Jermaine Johnson III, a classic long 3-4 rangy outside linebacker type, Will McDonald IV, who is, I think, 228 pounds or something like that.
He's essentially a bendy edge.
Essentially an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah.
And Mykel Williams last year, a 260-pound tall, interesting guy. If you look at his most productive players who he's inherited or not drafted, you have Elvis Dumervil, who is the shortest edge rusher in the modern NFL. He's only 5'11". He's the only player under 6 feet tall to have more than 50 sacks this century. I think he's the only under 6 feet tall to have more than 40 sacks this century. Eric Armstead, who's 6'8", the exact opposite player. He's had success with that. You can keep going through all of these players he's worked with. There is no exact type. You're right schematically that a Nick Bosa type would fit best, but a Nick Bosa type would fit best every scheme. Having a good player is the best thing for any scheme. Yeah. I think it's been a little bit overlooked that the multiple revolution, the idea of not having one scheme, of not building around one pure defensive identity, was kind of innovated by Gus Bradley. Have we totally overlooked that he was the defensive coordinator in Seattle when the Legion of Boom era was happening and the league was falling in love with multiple front defense? And so you hire the guy who was in charge of the idea of the multiple front defense. And you're like, they're going to run a 4-3. What? These are the guys who innovated the idea of not doing that. So if you're saying, Bain's the one who fits what Saleh does, let's not just sit here and say that Saleh has a type. We're talking about one position
Yeah.
here. And I just gave you 5 different first round picks that are shaped totally differently than one another.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean that you got to rule out Bailey. That does not mean you got to rule out Reese. That does not mean you got to rule out Bain. I think that they're going to do the thing that they think benefits the defense most.
I don't know why I've been feeling this way, but I think Keldrick Falk out of Auburn is a much bigger option than I expected.
Okay.
I don't love that idea. That's what's hitting me right now. But I think the size and athleticism is gonna pop when it comes to the combine. He's already a top 10 projected pick. He's never been. The lack of consistency is a problem for me personally. But man, that guy, that guy. I think teams are gonna fall in love with that guy potentially. What's really interesting is. So let's Kwity Paye, for example. He's 6'3", 265. To your point on the size, I don't think he's going to be worth the $16 to $19 million contract that he's going to get, but I think he's a good player. He averages about 5-6 sacks a season. I think he is a good teaching tool for Femi Oladejo. I think Femi Oladejo has sort of a similar game to him. So I could see them doing something like that where you go get a middle pack piece that's still kind of he's on the up, right? This would be his second contract. This is a guy who's 25 years old, first round talent, and has been fairly productive. Not elite. He's not a number one, but I could see them doing something like that where you're not spending to get Trey Hendrickson, but you're spending to get somebody who's like clearly a number 2, and that raises your floor, right? And then you use your 4th pick or top 10 pick on the guy that you like the most that ideally pairs well. And to Zach's point, you need a lot of different things here. The way that player gives you that thing doesn't matter, but you need different things. So I think that there's I think there's a lot of different ways you could go in the top 10 with the draft. I don't know. What do you think of Kwity Paye, for example?
If you go get one of the 5 or 6 guys that is a 15 to 20 million number 2 edge rusher, cool. Like,
Sure.
cool. Like, I don't care which one it is. I really don't care which one it is. I have no personal investment in which one of these guys is better than the other. They are all 6 to 9 sack type guy. Go get that guy. You got that. You milked that out of Jihad Ward last year.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep him as a rotational piece while also developing Oladejo, while also getting one of those guys, while also using a top 5 pick on an edge rusher, you have fixed a problem area. So go do it.
Easier said than done. Zach, who would you want? Zach Lyons in the chat. Zach, who do you want at number 4? Give me your priorities. Give me your order. I'd like to know. I have gone back and forth on it over and over and over again. I think they could use all of them. I think Reese is the one that you probably can't pass up on at 4. If he's available, if he falls to you at 4, I think you have to try, and probably you're not passing on that pure raw athleticism.
I am so not sold yet. I'm going to need to do a lot of research to be sold. Did you know that for the 2025 season, Arvell Reese only had 2 more quarterback pressures than Ruben Bain did in the college football playoff?
No, I look, Ruben Bain is a phenomenal leverage monster who will be an asset for every defensive line in the NFL. It's about how he fits with the pieces already on the roster. Is the question, and but it may not matter. He may be just good enough. I think Bailey is clearly the one that gives you the thing you have the least of. Bailey is the screams off the edge. He's not Nick Bosa, but he can play a little bit more of that wide 9 and come off the edge with speed and acceleration and bendiness and pressure the quarterback. He showed he's much better against the run in the playoff game and in the Big 12 championship game. I think Bailey still is my guy. I think those are the 3. For some reason, I think Falk is moving up their board, though, for some reason.
Not to be the guy who points at Kevin Youkilis, but just like there does have to be some measure of performance. Like, projectability is great.
Yeah, I know.
I saw 2 of these guys be really good at pressuring the quarterback, and I saw one of these guys totally disappear for the last 8 weeks of the season after I learned his name. I'm going to be
Are you
biased.
are you talking about Arvell Reese?
Yeah, I'm going to be biased towards the two. But even
play him at the position.
I saw Jalen Walker not play the position and pop at his old position. Arvell Reese didn't do anything at his old position.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything. I'm not saying that I'm out. I need to be sold.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, look, I'm not sold on any of these guys. Honestly, the safer play is trade back to 8 and draft Mekhi Lemon. That is the safe play. Mekhi Lemon is the most dependable and safest draft pick in the top 10, in my opinion. That's who I think. I've been on that bandwagon from the beginning. I probably will not change. Maybe we learn more in the combine. Honestly, the only other one that might be in that same ballpark is like Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs, like those guys that are clearly the best player at their position that are really not options for the Titans. They're just not. And so I think Sonny Styles is guaranteed to be a 12-year starter in the NFL.
It's too easy, but my guy, as you heard me say all season, and will continue to hear me say through draft season, if you're trading back, I like Mansour Delane so much.
He's a very good player.
Really like Mansour Delane.
Very good player. If you are taking someone in the top 8 or top 10, I want Mekhi Lemon is the safest and most dependable and fills a position of need. It's to me, he's the pick. But what do I know? So there you go. All right. What else you got here? What else? What are we missing? What are we missing? Trades. We didn't really trade and development are two things we haven't talked a lot about. Are there any other pieces outside of Ridley that you think could be moved? I mean, there's not a lot of trading. Doesn't really happen in the NFL.
No, I mean that entire 2024 free agency class, whether it's Cushenberry, whether it's Ridley, whether it's Snead, whether it's Pollard, it's all old regime. It's all old coach and old GM regime. Those guys are always at risk of being moved, whether it's trade, whether it's cut, whether it's draft day pieces where you're shifting. Be vigilant about that, but I don't know if it benefits the Titans. Like, we can talk about this free agent running back class. Does it benefit the Titans to cash out on Tony Pollard, to go get Travis Etienne, to go get Isaiah Pacheco? I really don't know. I truly do not know. But it's a possibility. We'll see.
I don't think there's a big trade, but to your point, it's possible. Jason says, I don't imagine, and I don't like imagining an inexperienced Femi Oladejo paired with an inexperienced rookie defensive end. It also doesn't feel great imagining a couple of inexperienced starting DBs. Going to be rough. I think that's why you can get some veterans in free agency, pair them with cornerback selections in the 3rd and 4th and maybe even 5th rounds, and you can build I think taking shots at corner is the way you do it. You as we discussed, you use mid-round resources and mid-dollar free agent resources. You throw a lot of it at the wall and you see who rises to the top, and then you go do it again next year. I think with edge, you need a premier resource to use on that player, and I think with receiver, that's where the $10 to $12 million free agent, I think, will be valuable and live up to the contract, and that is the Jennings and Alex Pierce and Dobbs and Wan'Dale Robinson of it all. So
it's probably also worth mentioning that, well, two things worth mentioning. Number one, the San Francisco 49ers won 12 games this year with the number 32 pass rush in the NFL. Saleh was able to make do without a top-tier pass rush for a year. If they go a different direction, he knows how to do that. And number two, if I'm playing like absolute game theory bullshit right here, and I'm sorry that I'm going game theory here, if everybody is talking about passing on Carnell Tate or Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson this year so that next year they can get Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, whoever else is at the top of the draft next year.
God,
that means if everybody's doing that,
Ryan Williams,
that means that the people they are picking this year are Reuben Bain, David Bailey. They're picking that premium position to save for next year's premium position. Game theory. That means they're picking everybody a year before Dylan Stewart. You pick your receiver this year, go get Dylan Stewart next year. You've got the best both years. Game theory.
I think the problem is I think you need to be number 1 to get Dylan Stewart. And I don't think the hope is, with all the changes, they will not be that bad.
You think that he's going to go number 1 when Dante Moore and Arch Manning are coming out? I do not.
Look, if you are talking about high-level talent, I think there are 5 to 8 players in next year's draft that would all be number 2 in this draft.
Sure.
And I think Smith and Coleman are two of them at wide receiver. I think Stewart is another one. I think Arch is one. I think Dante Moore could be one, but I'm not ready to put Dante Moore up there yet. He still has to put on about 25 pounds. So
all I'm saying is if you are picking the edge this year to save up for the receiver next year, because the best receiver is better, the best edge is also better.
Well, Colin Simmons is the other one, right? Texas pass rusher. He's also probably in that same blue chip top 8 performance thing. So the point here's the beauty of this. You need so much at both positions. It doesn't matter. You could take Reuben Bain at 4 and then come back and get Dylan Stewart or Colin Simmons next year, and that would be good. That's a smart strategy.
And after 66 minutes of this show, I hope that's the point we've communicated to you. It doesn't matter.
Your team sucks. Just take some good players.
We've been talking for 66 minutes, and Mr. Gotta Coach Better, Gotta Play Better right here just told you it doesn't matter. Woo! We did it. I hope the show was fun.
Don't be such a hater. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Of course, go support Sinkers Beverages. If you're into it, you can listen to Zach. You can listen to Zach if you're into it. It's fine. Go check him out. 104.5. You can listen to the former host of a football show. Don't forget the little people, Zach. Don't forget the little people. Nick Suss, of course, who is 6'3", not little at all. You can follow him on thetennessean.com. Make sure you support good journalism as well. And of
Don't
course,
put that on me. I'm not quite 6'3". I'm
6'2"?
a little under.
6'2"?
I'm a little under.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. I can't own 6'3".
I am like an eighth of an inch below 6'1", but you better believe I'm claiming 6'1".
I don't round up on this. I don't want to. If somebody's really 6'3", they've earned it. I'm not.
I'm just 6. You're saying at 6'3", you got to be there, but at 6'1", it's okay to fudge a little bit.
I'm saying it's not okay to round up, but if you got to round up for your own ego, go for it.
I think if you are 6'1.5 inches, you can't round up. You're 6 foot. But if you are a fraction of an inch, I think you can round up. Because if you wear shoes, you're over 6'1". You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if I pull my hair up, I'm 6'6".
That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Doesn't count. Drink beer in a social setting and pay for good journalism. That is our entire ethos as a company in a nutshell. Support good journalism and go socialize around a cocktail or a beer, but preferably a beer or glass of wine, because it's better for you than liquor, and do it at a local establishment so you can keep those businesses supported through what was a very bad 2 weeks of storm in a tough economic environment in 26. So go support good local businesses like Sinkers Beverages and like 440 Sports. So there you go. All right. For Nick Suss, I am Braden Gall. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will talk to you next time.